This is my second video of this topic. The Bank of Japan, of course, everyone's talking about it, but how many times and how fast or how much have they hiked these rates? And any hikes, what is the relative impact on Bitcoin and in the crypto market? We're going to take a look at that. We're going to be a bit more scientific about it. And I'm going to give you some dates and expectation of what happened in those dates, the results. And ultimately, we can only go by what has happened previously. And in my first video earlier, I was actually talking about this with the VIP group on Sunday and Monday as part of our weekly outlook and our economic calendar. So the market has had about 3 weeks to price this in. And this is the only factor that gives us a bit of a hope. The fact that it's no longer the same surprise as it was back in 2024. And I'm going to give you the key indicators and the results of what happened previously and why it could be different this time. So by and large, this was a expected event as per my previous video, and it's been in the cards for the last 3 weeks. Now, of course, they are going to raise to the highest level since 1995, okay? These hikes will strengthen the yen against the dollar and contain inflation. However, it risks further already putting under pressure the Japanese economy, which is already, in a weak position. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to have a look and see how this news impact has previously impacted Bitcoin and, of course, what the expectations were. So in my opinion, back in 2024, it was quite alien for most people. So you could argue that the market, by and large, the first time it happened was March here. So we have count number 1 in March, very, very small hikes, okay? The market dropped by 23%. So you could already see that this particular news event and this decision by the Bank of Japan was quite impactful. The next one happened in July 2024, and this one was more noticeable. If you remember Black Monday, this was when the market just absolutely went into free fall, and people were saying this is Black Monday. For those of you that are from the UK, you know what that would mean. Exchange rate mechanism and the failure. There was massive issues in the early 90s with this event during Thatcher's time. So that's what people were saying. So this was count number 2. Very small, very, very tiny. And of course, the market just went, oh, carry trade. That was the talk of the town. And we dropped by 26%. January 2025, not that many people noticed this actually, because this was part of a larger correction, okay? And this was coming from the height of the December euphoria. This was the election rally, of course. And then at the end of that, you can't really attribute a lot to this number, 31%, 31.2%, nearly 32% there. But this was a collection of events, but no doubt what the BOJ did here did have impact as well. Now, next correction, number 3, right? So this is the December 2025. Now, here's the difference. The market is aware of this event, right? Not that they weren't in the previous 2 events, but this is a lot more anticipated. And if you want to put your if you want to say, look, historically, every time we dropped significantly on the back of the BOJ announcing these hikes. However, this is going to be the biggest, the largest, the hardest that they're going to do since 1995. So history repeats. And of course, we might see further decline in the price of Bitcoin, ultimately pushing us into a dip that allows us to reset the cycle, okay? The fact that people are saying the 4-year cycle is over, what you have to remember is the top 100 assets have all performed relatively poorly this year, with the exception of, for example, BNB, which is up 20%. And we know what's happened here with the Binance coin. Solana is actually one of the worst hit, 41%. Sui is at 61% for the year, right? 61% for Sui, 52% for Chainlink. Of course, Bitcoin Cash, few assets, you know, Tron here, again, propped up. BNB, again here, largely a chain that is well managed internally. But when you start to look through, what we have is indication of particular coins, especially in the privacy sector. And of course, Bitcoin Cash has done phenomenally well. But what you have is Monero and, of course, Zcash as the two outstanding narratives or performers in the outstanding narrative, which has been, you know, privacy. And then in addition to that, look at stuff like Avalanche, 73% for HBAR, right? So these, to me, even Litecoin here, 31%. This will indicate one thing to me, right? The crypto altcoins or the altcoins in general have been in a bear market, you know, for the best part of 12 months now. And we know that because since December last year in the election rally, we've not really seen any significant gains in our altcoins bag. How far do we go? It's anyone's guess right now, but I would say that ultimately it comes down to one thing. You know, if you create a bear flag like we've done here, you take the bear flag and you extend it down, and that takes you into territory below $60,000. Would we go there? I don't think so, and I hope not. But if we do, that would be a confirmation at these levels. So if you look at this extension here, it does go all the way down from where we are into the, you know, 50s, mid 50s or whatever, 60. So I'm not calling for that. We do have very strong support, and these are order blocks in demand as well. So this particular order block that we're approaching in the from $74,000 to $78,000 should get us into next year. Now with liquidity expanding, I'm not worried about the longer term aspects of the cycle. What I am worried about is how many projects are potentially going to suffer, potentially die, and I know teams are in absolute trouble right now. So like I said before, I'm very bullish on a few selected core cryptocurrencies that I will hold regardless of a bear market. The stuff that I'm worried about is the smaller micro caps, and that's where most people will feel a lot of the pain if we don't get out of this. Time to knuckle down, and I think time to really understand what you want to do in the future. But I hope you like that explanation. Give me a like on the video. I think there is a massive level of fear, but the fear is not being, you know, you have to put the fear into context. The context is the market is well aware of what's going on. Bitcoin right now is sitting at $85,000. So don't be surprised if everyone expects one thing and another thing happens. But if history repeats, we should see another dip that takes us into those lower levels before. Obviously, ultimately, liquidity is low anyway, but it takes us into a new dimension when it comes to the bear market and what we go on from there. But it would be a clean slate in my opinion. Crypto is falling, so it's time to knuckle down, do product research, and of course, when stablecoins flows increase, hopefully we'll see a better time ahead. Take care, and as always, like, share, subscribe to the channel as well. Take care. Good night.